Hi, this is Sam Rashkin. I'm here to talk about the SIPA True Cost Bidding Tool. This is the second of 4 videos. And in the first video, we showed you the substantial hidden cost savings and value that are translated effectively when you provide a bid for SIPs compared to conventional framing. In this second video, I'll give you an overview of the whole tool and how it works. In the next video, I'll show you how to use it on an actual project. And in the last video, we'll show you how it is a powerful sales tool when you go and present a bid to a client. So let's start with this video and the overview. The page you see here is the kind of the splash page when you get to the tool itself. And you see you can start from scratch, you can start on a sample project, and I recommend just go to use the calculator now. And you'll come to the very first page and you have, of course, a disclaimer, but most importantly, it introduces you to 4 important helpful documentations that make the tool more effective for you. The first one is the checklist. And the checklist you see here is a 2-sided checklist that lays out all the inputs you'll need to use a tool in only minutes. And on the first section, you have general information, and then you have more detail for the key components of your bid: the structure, the insulation, airflow control, finishes, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, quality. And then there's a separate section on cycle time and the amount of time it takes to do each of those key components, because time is going to be, as you see, a very substantial part of the hidden cost savings. And then the last section is the added value, and there again, we talk about 3 things: how we enhance quality, enhance space, and if we use SIPs and we're able to move a builder to qualify for certain incentives, we want to make sure we count those in the bidding process as well. So I will show you the details of using this checklist on an actual project, but first I want to let you know this is an important resource in the documentation. The next one is the checklist guidance. And checklist guidance, you see just basic recommendations about how to fill out the general information when you use the tool, recommendations for the key cost items, also for how to calculate cycle time and estimated value. Again, when we go through an actual project, I will show you basically how to use these default values and build off them to get more and more effective inputs that really are useful when you provide bids. Then the next item is the user tips for the tool itself. And here is the basic guidance that I'm presenting in these videos in a compressed written format. Again, over the course of these 4 videos, I'll tell you how to prepare before you actually use it on a project, the research you'll need to do, and sources of research to do the inputs, then preparing a true cost bid, and finally integrating it in sales and marketing. So it kind of tracks with these 4 videos. And finally, we have SIP optimization as a resource. And this is basically a fact sheet on the key components that drive a project to be really SIP friendly. In other words, really have an even greater cost advantage. And the ones that we develop with the industry first address design factors that minimize costs: a simple roof, a plan that accommodates location of posts and beams so you don't need separate trusses or structure to support a SIP roof, plumbing on interior walls makes life easier, window opening size for the standard insulated headers you can do with a SIP panel, 2-foot dimensions help with most manufacturers, and we can kind of trade off a basement for above grade space. That's a big impact because you get a lot of added value with the SIP design. Then are design factors to optimize value. Vaulted ceilings increase the value of a space, and if you get those with SIPs, you want to account for that. And most significantly, a lot of times SIPs will create additional volume in the house. It could be conditioned space in an unvented attic, storage in an unvented attic, and also a place for your heating cooling system. Often they are put in a lot of western and southern regions in vented attics, which are not conditioned, and you get tremendous benefits having a SIP space that's conditioned or semi-conditioned for your heating cooling system. Performance factors deal with, again, Will SIPs take you over the key requirements you need to qualify for a certification program that provides a significant incentive? And how important is the resilience? If SIPs gives you significant wildfire resistance, that can be a very powerful value that should be counted in regions of the country that are exposed to wildfire, for instance. And then on construction factors, where you get recycle time is compressed, that's a huge cost saving. So you want to make sure projects that benefit from cycle time, where we know SIP adds extra value. Also, when you're building sites accessible, that makes SIP a much lower cost process to get it to the site. And home specified for spray foam, SIPs will be a much more cost-effective solution because spray foam has a much higher price than conventional insulation products. So all those factors help you understand when you're SIP optimized, and that will come into play on some of the inputs. Okay, so we know all these documentations, so let's go to the calculator, this red bar here, and the first page of the calculator is where you basically enter your information, who you are, your name, your email address, your company name, just so you're in the system. And you'll notice at the bottom we have all these four helpful documentations: the checklist, the input guidance, the user tips, and the SIPs optimization. They'll always be at the bottom of the very page anytime that you want to pull them up over the course of using the tool. Now here's how I filled it out for myself: Sam Rashkin, my address, and my company, Retooling the U.S. Housing Industry. Now, the very first page of the calculator is where you put in project information specific to a bid you're going to be doing for a client. And again, we're going to go through in the next video how to fill this out. But what I want to walk you through is there are 5 factors here where you don't type in the information, you choose. And the first one is a home size. And there'll be these choices, and you have to pick one of them. Under 900 square feet, which is the one that's selected. As you see, that's the one that shows up by default. Under 3,000 square feet, over 3,000 square feet, affordable housing, and the last one you can't see is multifamily. So you would pick the size and the type that applies to you on a specific project that you're doing. And the key thing here is these sizes actually align with the categories in the SIPA awards every year. So that's a nice little correlation that we intentionally put into the tool. The next item you have to choose is the type of builder. And you can see the default that's in here is custom builder, but you also could be a regional production builder, a publicly owned national production builder, a factory built home company, or other. And the difference between a regional and publicly owned production builder is obviously there's some national builders that are different from regional builders who build production housing. The next choice you have is for the IECC code or equivalent that you're using or complying with on this project. And the one that's here by default is 2009 or earlier. The other options you have are 2012 IECC, 2015 IECC, 2018 IECC, 2021 IECC, and a zero energy or zero energy ready code. That would be, for instance, like in California, you have a zero energy code, you would use that option to fill in this category. The next item that you select from is whether it's SIP optimized or not. SIP optimized design. Here you see the default SIP optimized, but the other option you have is non-SIP optimized. And here's where that tool, the SIP optimization documentation, will really help you kind of when you have a project in front of you, determine is this SIP optimized or not SIP optimized. And again, very helpful for us to see how the actual results work out for the 2 different types of SIP projects. And the last of the drop downs will be the project phase. And you'll see here that the default is bid submitted, but the other options are bid accepted, bid not accepted, project in construction, and project complete, which you can't see. So you would pick the phase for the project. And a case where this might apply would be you come back, you've saved your draft, now the project was in construction or it's complete and you have better numbers, you go in and put those numbers into the into the SIP tool. And what's great is it becomes a repository for you, in effect, of really useful knowledge about the costs of construction that are fine-tuned more and more over time. And you get better costs about framing or drywall or quality control that tend to be effectively received by builders when you submit bids. So that's the basic way that page works. And the next page is for home details and retail cost. And there's two sections. In the top, you have the basic price of the home, and then you talk about the conditioned square feet. You'll see this comes straight from the checklist that we talked about earlier. And so you want to know the total conditioned square feet, and then conditioned square feet above grade and conditioned square feet below grade. And the reason why these numbers are in here are where you would be taking credit for trading off a basement, let's say, for above grade space. You want to know how much square feet there is of above grade and below grade and account for that value. And similarly, the retail cost per square feet, you want to know for above grade, and you want to know below grade. You want to know what the value of storage space is and the value of vaulted ceilings. Again, if you're going to be benefiting using SIPs and getting more above grade space, more attic storage or vaulted ceilings, these numbers, assigning some value for those benefits is essential for the calculation to be completed. And then on construction costs, we're mostly talking about the carrying cost per day and the cost for dumpsters. The carrying cost per day, the industry research that it's about 10 years old now says $500 to $800 a day accounts for the cost of being in business. You know, your leasing, your insurance, your staff that work on a regular basis for you that you have to pay, no matter how long a project's taking, your construction loans, all these things that you can't get away from are $500 to $800 a day. So for every day that SIPs would reduce the cycle time, that can add up to significant benefit, cost savings. And in fact, you'll see it often turns up as one of the big cost saving items that we have. So that number is very important. I want to warn you, some builders will say, I don't have any cost per day, and then there's some education to share about, in fact, they do have cost per day. The other significant component of cost per day is velocity. If by building faster with SIPs, I can build 5 homes a month instead of 3 homes a month, I can build 2 additional homes and my margins are $40,000 per home, that's $80,000 of benefit for those 5 homes. And again, that's a significant value. So builders often don't calculate that, and there's this whole hope that as we use the tool, this education really raises awareness of these important cost elements. On the other item, the dumpster cost per day, the best research we have suggests about $400 to $500 is a good number. That's a little bit old, so these costs may be going up, and that's the cost, just to get it filled, get all the waste over to the dumpster, and then the tipping fees to remove it. So again, you'll see in the guidance for the inputs, these kinds of numbers come from there. Okay, moving on now, we get to the core part of where we take all the components of the home itself and we start addressing it. And you see the very first one here is for bid information structure. And I want to show you that the roof framing, wall framing, floor framing, structural beams, foundation, all these come straight from the checklist. So we'll show you later when we use an actual project how we just move right in here and use the values from our checklist. But I want to highlight the top of the page, because this is the top of the page moving forward for structure, insulation, control, finishes, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, quality control, and lean, and added value. The very top here is the navigating piece here that shows you where you are. And right now we're at bid information for structure. And if I want to move around, all I have to do is click on any one of these dots and I can move around the tool and complete it in any order I prefer. The other thing about this is that you have this dashboard at the top of every page. And immediately as you start putting inputs, this dashboard will start calculating two key values and then add them up into a third. So the first key value is the cost savings will be calculated. So as soon as you put in costs for SIPs and conventional framing for structure, mechanical, all these costs keep getting added. And the net cost savings will be negative if SIPs has a higher cost and positive if you're actually saving, you have positive savings. Now the added value that comes along later when we finish this last piece will show up here, and that's always positive. Either you add value or you don't with SIPs. And when you add A and B together, you get the true cost result. And where it's positive, you have a cost advantage. And that's where SIPs is a better choice from a cost perspective for the builder. And so you're going to see this running tally at the top of every page. Now, when we go to the next page, this is the bid information for installation. Again, the screen's, the writing's small, but this is exactly aligned with the checklist we talked about. The very first item is the number of days. And you remember the checklist we have, the days as a separate section after these key sections. And so the days will be very important to enter as well. I also want to call attention to this bottom bar. When you add all the numbers for each of these key components, the total for that component, in this case insulation, will be at the bottom. The total for conventional framing and the total for SIPs, and you have these at the bottom. So you also have that kind of analysis being done for you in every page. We go to the next page and we have airflow control. And the same thing, you have the inputs from your checklist, you put them in, the number of days you put them in, and then we have the finishes, drywall, cabinets, interior trim, exterior trim. The reason this section's in here is because drywall is particularly benefiting from SIPs. All the exterior walls have a hard SIP sheathing surface, typically OSB, which means that you don't have to, with the drywall, find a stud, cut, and have the waste and the labor to do that. So if the drywall contractor charges the same for SIPs as conventional framing, you're paying them too much because they'll get it. They should be realizing about, let's say, about 25% savings in material and time. Now, whether a drywall contractor will actually recognize and accommodate that advantage until they have familiarity using SIPs or building with SIPs homes, that's a question you have to work out with them. But you should know that that's something you should be working towards. Cabinets and trim should benefit from the far superior dimensional accuracy that should reduce waste and time for their installation. So that's why all these items are there. The next page is for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Typically, this is going to be the same to do with SIPs or with conventional framing. The key thing here, two items that are here, is the schematics for optimizing SIPs. A lot of times there's a cost a SIP provider will charge to take your plans and do the mechanical, electrical, plumbing optimization. And so there's a place to put a fee if there is one. And very much of top of mind is a perception by some that electric's harder with SIPs. So if you can't get past the reality that, in fact, when electricians get experience with SIPs, they find it is the same or actually easier than doing conventional framing. But if you can't get past the perception that electric costs more with SIPs, you may need a place to put that in there if that's what the client is insisting. So that is here for that purpose. The next item is the quality control and lean construction. Here, there are significant savings with SIPs we talked about in the first video. Training, inspections, rework, risk management, a number of dumpsters. All those can be accounted for. And what's very important here is the input guidance documentation will help give you some sense of what to do. Normally, you're going to see we recommend 0.15% of the construction cost for SIPs and about 0.3% of the construction cost for framing for each of these items, which means you're saving roughly about $200 or $300, $150 on each of them with SIPs. What I'll tell you right now is this is a fight you might not want to undertake. You might want to leave these blank because it takes education and convincing for a builder to really understand. These are kind of harder because they're not tracked by the building industry. You know, the training costs and inspection costs. But you look at what it takes to get grade 1 insulation and all the extra work and then the extra inspections. You don't have to do that with SIPs. And the rework, having to redo trim and cabinets because the walls aren't straight. You know, builders just don't track that. So where you have builders that really get it and understand the logic, you have a place to account for it. But no, it's not going to be your most significant number that you have to fight for. So don't fall on your sword and go keep insisting on this one, but it's there for where you get more educated builders or can help educate them and include this extra cost savings. The next item is the added value using SIPs. And again, it's mostly about enhancing quality, enhancing space, and where you can tip into a certification that gets you an incentive or 45L tax credit, then you want to put the difference in there. So again, 45L tax credits, $2,500 for Energy Star certification and $5,000 for Zero Energy Ready Home certification. Those are big numbers. So because of SIPs, you qualify for those, you put it in there. But for the most part, a lot of you will be working with high performance builders that are already certified to one of these programs, and it should be a wash, and you can just leave this blank. But it's there where it makes a difference. And then finally, the last page is the summary page. And there's going to be a lot going on here. In the next video, when we walk you through, I'll show you a lot about how all the expanded details are really useful, particularly as you scroll down. You'll see that you get the individual tabulations for structure, for air sealing and insulation, and for MEP and for finishes, and you can see where which components driving the cost savings the most. And a lot of times, again, you'll see time, the insulation and air sealing can be a big number, but you'll get to understand where your SIP product is creating the most value and the most cost savings, and where you need to spend the most time in the sales process. And that's where in the fourth and final video, we'll go through and have a lot to say about how to really take this tool and make it be so powerful and how you can really demonstrate the cost advantage with SIPs. So I hope this all makes sense. It's a really exciting tool. I know it's a lot to take in this short little introduction, but this is the overview for the SIPs tool. See you next video when we actually go and use it, and you see how the results can be stunning in terms of the cost advantage. See you then.